Coming up, Dremel helps you build ideas, play with your pets from miles away, and a stylish smartwatch for a steal. Seriously, you gotta watch before you buy.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Before You Buy is brought to you by Cashfly at CACHEFLY.com.
This episode of Before You Buy is brought to you by the Ring Video Doorbell. With Ring, you can see and talk to anyone at your door from anywhere in the world using your smartphone. It's like caller ID for your home. Right now, get free expedited FedEx shipping in time for the holidays when you go to ring.com/beforeyoubuy. And by Automatic, the connected car company that improves your driving and integrates your car into your digital life. For more information, visit automatic.com/twit and enter the code TWIT to get 20% off your purchase. Well, hey, and welcome to Before You Buy. It's Twit's product review show where we take the latest and greatest gadgets and gizmos and we give them to members of the Twit family who can give you the most honest reviews possible. Now, there has been a lot of attention paid to smart watches recently. Of course, there's the Apple Watch and the Moto 360s. There's been several devices for Android specifically. Even Microsoft has been getting in on the action for wearable technologies. Well, we got into the lab a little bit of something from Asus, their ZenWatch 2. We wanted to find out who could give us the best review possible, and it just happens that it's Mr. Jason Howell.
Hey, what's up? I'm Jason Howell, and I've spent, it's probably been about 3 weeks at this point, a longish time because there are not one but two of them, with the Asus ZenWatch 2. You can see I've got two models here, a larger one, which is the one that I wore the majority of the time, and then I've got a smaller one here, which I did wear, although it's marketed more for women. It's a smaller footprint, so it's meant to look good on smaller wrists, essentially. The smaller one is a 1.45-inch version. It has a 300 milliamp hour battery underneath, and the larger one is 1.63 inches with a 400 milliamp hour battery underneath, and both are running around $149.99. You can find them online at the Google Play Store, all across the board. Let's take a look at the specs to start off with here. Both are running the 1.2 gigahertz Snapdragon 400 processor with 512 megs of RAM. 4 gigs of onboard storage. If you want to store media or whatever, your music, and have it synced to a Bluetooth headset, you can do that. That's what the storage is there for, as well as installing apps and stuff. They are water resistant, rated at IP67. So if you're washing your dishes, you don't have to take the wash off. You can leave it on there and it's going to resist the water. No heart rate monitor underneath, and that is one of the omissions of the Asus ZenWatch 2. So if that means something to you, that's something to consider. Of course, it's $149.99, so a $150 watch, whereas others are, probably more hitting around $200, $250 and upwards. So this is a lower cost watch, meant more, I'd say, for people who are interested in getting involved in the Android Wear ecosystem and, don't want to spend a lot of money. And they come in 3 different color options: black, kind of gunmetal black, a silverish, and a gold color. So first of all, the design. First, we'll take a look at the smaller one here. It ships, as you can see here, with a neutral colored strap. Definitely looks good on the female wrist. Florence Ion, my co-host on All About Android, actually did a full review and was very, very positive on the ZenWatch 2, mainly because there aren't a whole lot of Android Wear devices that look good on women's wrists. They're usually very large and bulky, and in this case, she loved it. She thought it looked great. She said it was regularly mistaken for an Apple Watch. As you can see, it kind of has the squarish kind of form factor with the rounded edges, and it's a little reminiscent of the Apple Watch. And although the smaller one is a little bit thicker when put up side by side with the larger one, even though it's sporting a smaller battery. Go figure. The larger one ships with I think, a pretty inflexible and kind of uncomfortable strap Thankfully, it's easily replaceable. You can put any strap on these pretty easily, and that's a nice feature. There's also a slight curve to the screens, which feels nice when you're interacting with the device. I will say, though, and you can kind of see with both of these devices, it's all about that bezel. Man, there's a large bezel on these watches, and to my eyes, it was really hard for me to let go of. I feel like Asus did what they could to fit the screen, to fill the extra space with kind of this shiny material underneath that's, kind of reflective and interesting, I suppose. But to me, I just saw all the space that there was no display, and I just wished that more of that face was filled out by the display. I also feel like the underside doesn't necessarily match what feels like a premium look on the top half. It feels like there's a big difference between the nice look of the top and then you flip it over, or you see it on the side on a wrist and you see that kind of dark plastic underneath. It's a minor quibble, I suppose, but it stuck out to me. I guess those kind of things bother me a little bit. There is the side button on over here on the right-hand side. It's pleasant, has nice action. Really all it does is activate the screen or turn the screen off or wake it up from theater mode if you happen to put that on when you're watching a movie. But it's a nice button to have, and it doesn't feel cheap or anything like that. The charger snaps to the pogo pins on the back with kind of a magnetic snap. So it snaps right into place. You can only fit it in one direction so that you know that you've fit it correctly. So I suppose that's good. The downside to this is that the way the charger is made, it encourages you to lay the device down on its screen when you're charging. If you lay it with the screen facing up, I've noticed sometimes the charger will become disconnected and you won't know until later. I suppose I learned the hard way. I laid it face down, and on the smaller device version, there is a little bit of a scratch. So that makes me, at least feel the need to let you know if you do get this watch, don't lay its screen down, even though the way the charger is set up, you might be inclined to do so. Save yourself the headache and don't do that. Overall, I think it's an equal mix of, nice and some corners cut, but they had to do that to reach the lower price. As for the display, the images are sharp. I feel like the images are very sharp. The pixel density is really nice here, and the colors are very rich. Very nice looking display on both devices. Although the smaller one, obviously it's a smaller device, but everything feels really small on the display itself. So, it might be a little too small for your eyes. You're just going to have to look at them side by side and see for yourself. And it gets really bright in the sunlight, and that's great. And of course, it has the ambient display as well, so it can kind of keep things, in a lower power mode when you're not interacting with it specifically. Performance-wise, things move smoothly. I think the Snapdragon 400 processor that's underneath is pretty standard among a lot of Android Wear devices, and it totally does the trick. That's great. I had some Bluetooth connectivity issues, and I've had a really hard time figuring out whether that's the watch or whether that's my phone. I'm not going to hold it against the Asus ZenWatch 2. A part of me feels like it might be my phone, but it was a regular occurrence while testing this device. So I suppose keep that in mind, but I wouldn't hold it against this specifically. As for battery, top-notch battery, hands down. I never once hit the end of the day and had the battery die before I was able to get it to a charger. It really did last very well. 3 weeks straight, never killed the battery before it charged at the end of the night. So that's very great. It also has fast charge, so it can charge pretty darn quickly when you throw it on the charger and you need some extra juice. As for software, Android Wear is Android Wear. Google doesn't really allow device makers to stray too far, if at all, from the Android Wear spec. So the things that they do to, kind of help with customization is they add a lot of watch faces. And there are a lot of watch faces on the Asus ZenWatch 2. Not necessarily saying that I like a lot of the watch faces, but there are lots of options. Some of them just felt a little too big based on the amount of space that you're given. So, but that's a personal taste thing, so you should check it out for yourself. So let's take a look at the pros of the Asus ZenWatch 2. First of all, I think the curvy design is appealing. For a low price, Wear device. It definitely has kind of a more premium look and feel to it. Battery performance is excellent. The display is super sharp, very bright. And the fact that you have the small and the large options, that's just not something that you see from all OEMs that are making Android Wear devices right now. So it's very nice to have the option. And finally, low price. $150 out the door is an excellent price for the quality of the hardware that you're getting here. The cons, that bezel, man. The bezel just screams at me every single time based on, the size of the display versus the bezel that surrounds it. So I don't know if that'll bug you as much as it does me, but there you go. The plastic underside, like I said, minor quibble, but it kind of, caught my eye from time to time. And the charging facility just kind of encourages a screen down method. Maybe that could be, revised with like a charging puck instead on the next version. Overall, I would have to say, ladies, hey, why don't you go ahead and buy the Asus ZenWatch 2? I think it's a great option if what you want is Android Wear and you want one that isn't going to look like you have a spaceship on your wrist. As for the gentlemen out there, maybe more of a try, I suppose. I liked wearing the Asus ZenWatch 2 for the length of this review. But again, there were little things here and there that kind of bugged me. And so, if the things that bugged me don't bug you, go ahead and buy it. You really can't go wrong for $150, but if it was me, I would want to try it first. All right, there you have it. Thank you so much for watching my review of the Asus ZenWatch 2. My name is Jason Howell. You can catch my reviews here on Before You Buy, as well as my Android show, All About Android. All right, Father Robert, back to you.
And that's it. It's a buy of the Asus ZenWatch 2 for the ladies, and a try if you're a man who maybe wants a smartwatch that doesn't cost a whole lot. Of course, you can find Jason here on the Twit TV network on All About Android and the Android App Arena, well, both AAAs. And starting in the new year, he's going to be co-hosting Tech News Today with our very own Megan Maroney. When we come back, we are going to be changing gears a little bit. We want to move outside of the studio, maybe look from smartwatches to pet technology. That's right, we've got our very own Carly Perkins on location to tell us about the latest way to make sure your pets stay fed and happy even when you're not home. But before we do that, let's thank the first sponsor of this episode of Before You Buy. And it's a sponsor that I can really get behind because I actually bought one of these products way before they became a sponsor of the Twit TV network. This is it right here. This is the Ring Video Doorbell. Now, just like the name might sound, it is a doorbell. They ring the bell and they get a nice little tone on the inside telling you there's someone ready for you to open the door for. But that's not all it is. Let's first start by saying what you get in the kit. And that is everything, absolutely everything you need to get this installed in just a couple of minutes. In fact, the installation I did with my father at our home in Las Vegas, it took under 10 minutes. It includes the drill bit and, of course, the screwdriver, even the level, so that you can make sure it's installed properly. Now, the Ring Video Doorbell is actually this unit, but this little plate here allows you to charge the unit from house power. If you've got those two little wires that lead out to the doorbell, the Ring Video Doorbell will charge straight off that DC power, which means you'll never have to worry about it going flat. But if you don't have those wires, or if you're installing this someplace where you would traditionally have a doorbell, it also has a micro USB connector in the back that allows you to charge it just once, and it will stay charged for the entire year. What does it do with that charge? Quite simply, something phenomenal. You see, the Ring Video Doorbell will detect motion as well as detecting when someone presses this button. It has an HD camera built in here along with motion sensors and a microphone, which means if you use the app, you can have a conversation with the people who come to your door. Now, this is the actual unit I have installed for my parents in Las Vegas. The reason why I did this is I'm a little worried. They get some shady folk who come through, and I'm sometimes worried about that they're casing the joint. So this was a delivery man who came to the door and the call was accepted. This video got pushed up to the web, which means we now have that person's identification. We know what time he came. We know what he dropped off. In this particular case, my parents were home, so no harm, no foul. They were able to talk to the man and receive their package. But let's say someone were to come up after a package had been delivered and take the package away. That actually happened to the house across the way. We had motion that was detected at that house, and the Ring Video Doorbell picked up the person who stole it. Folks, it's not a gadget. It's peace of mind. It's the Ring Video Doorbell. We want you to try the Ring Video Doorbell. This is something that you're going to want to give to your loved one. You're going to want to have for your own home. Oh, right now, this year, give the gift of peace of mind and convenience with the Ring Video Doorbell, the one that Time Magazine named one of their top 10 gadgets. Go to ring.com/beforeyoubuy for free expedited FedEx shipping. That's ring.com/beforeyoubuy. With Ring, you're always home. And we thank the Ring Video Doorbell for their support of Before You Buy. Let's go ahead and take a little trip down to San Francisco. There was a group of us who were at PepCom, which is a really cool event that happens here in San Francisco and in Las Vegas before CES, where we get to see some vendors trot out some of the coolest gadgets that they've come up with. We asked Carly Perkins to take a look at a device that could help you play with your pet, and here's what she found.
Hi, I'm Carly Perkins from Twit TV, and I'm at the PepCom Holiday Spectacular, and I'm here to talk to Patricia from Petzi. Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
So tell me all about the Petzi Cam.
All right. Well, the Petzi Treat Cam is this device that you connect to your home Wi-Fi, and once it's connected, you can check in on your pet. You see them with the camera, and then you can talk to them. We have a speaker on there through the app on your phone, and then you can treat them. So you hit a button and the treats shoot out. And you can, of course, take pictures and share those through the camera as well.
Okay, and is this available for iOS and Android devices, or what is it available on?
Yes, on both. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So do you have any pets yourself? Do you use this product with your pets? I'm assuming so?
Yes, I have 3 cats at home, and I actually have an 18-year-old cat who's pretty spry for 18, but she's still, she's kind of hard of hearing. But in the mornings, she likes to sit right next to the treat cam and stare at me because she knows that this magic box dispenses treats.
Oh, great. And where can you find the Petzi Treat Cam?
Amazon.com is the easiest. We're also in a select number of Bed Bath & Beyond stores currently.
I'm Carly Perkins with Twit.tv, and this is the PepCon Holiday Spectacular and Petzi the Treat Cam.
Thanks, Carly. Hey, Brian, I'm just thinking,
yeah,
this doesn't have to be a pet treat dispenser. I can imagine putting this in the Twit break room and loading it up with candy.
Yeah, you've done a good job editing today. Here, you get another
a couple
candy.
of pieces of candy, right?
Yeah, no, that's a multi-tool right there.
I think Petzi needs to expand their business model. They're leaving a lot of money on the table. So
yeah, we should get in contact with them.
Yeah. Now maybe a human C, would be nice. I just don't think they should make one for goats. All right, let's go and move on to the next review, folks. You know we love phones here on the Twit TV network, and we know that there's really one person who can give us the most qualified review, and in this particular case, we really need it because it is a bit of a legend. It's the OnePlus X. That's right, the successor to the OnePlus One, and we asked Myriam Joire to take a look at it. Here's what she found.
Hi, and welcome to Before You Buy. This is Myriam Joire with the OnePlus X, the latest phone from the Chinese manufacturer. And it's an interesting device because it's kind of mid-range, but you're going to say, well, the OnePlus 2 is a mid-range priced flagship. So how does that fit in? Well, this is a bit lower end in terms of specs, but still pretty good and even cheaper than the OnePlus 2. So as you know, the OnePlus 2, it billed itself as a flagship, but really didn't hit that mark, I think. It was close, though. This doesn't have any of that pretension, and that's why I think this device is really great. You don't have any of that anticipation and expectation. All you get is a really solid mid-ranger with beautiful build quality and materials for a really great price. So let's talk about it a little bit more. Let me show you some of this close up. So it's a 5-inch device with a 1080p display. Nothing too crazy here, but what's cool, and you can probably notice this because it's a little bright and just turn it down a bit, is this is an AMOLED display. Very, very nice. It looks a little more saturated in person than it does on video right now, but it's a really good display. And of course, being AMOLED, you get fantastic viewing angles, as you can see here. And it's a pretty thin device. I don't know how exact thin it is, but it's got to be less than 7 millimeters. It's super, super thin, as you can see. And in the back, it's glass as well. So you got 2 sheets of glass. Now, there are 2 versions. This is the Onyx, and it's a back made of glass, and then there's one called ceramic, which looks very similar, a little more grayish color, but it's actually made of ceramic, and it's more expensive, and it's a limited edition run of 10,000. So There's a different price, and I'll get to that in a second, but both of them have the same specs and generally the same look and feel. So let me walk you through some of the bits and pieces here. Let's start at the front. So as I said, 5-inch 1080p display. You've got actually a screen protector on this one out of the box. It's very subtle, so I left it on. Front-facing camera here. You've got a earpiece and a sensor, of course. You have hardware buttons. I've disabled them. You can enable them again. Here in buttons, you can go like this, and then now your buttons are down here. Here's your multitask button. So I prefer having them on screen because I'm a Nexus user and I'm just used to it. This is very typical of what OnePlus offers on the OnePlus One or the OnePlus 2. But you do have hardware buttons, and that's exciting. They're down there. You can faintly see them. And then on the back, as I said, is also glass and the OnePlus logo, of course, right there. And then here's a 13 megapixel camera with single LED flash. Of course, it's autofocus, but it doesn't have OIS, not that you'd expect it to have OIS at that price point. And I'll get to the price again. It's, lower end than the OnePlus 2. But it does have phase detect autofocus, which is, a little faster than the regular style. On top here, you can see that this entire surface here is real metal, and it's got these very tiny machined grooves running through it, which gives this kind of like ridged look and feel. And the antenna bands. So this is a really high-end fit and finish and build quality with either aluminum or steel here. You got the secondary mic here, 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, and along the edges here you can see there is a SIM tray, and I'll talk about this more in a second. Volume rocker with a nice little swirl pattern on it and a power lock key. Unfortunately, it's hard to tell them apart because they're not really, they feel very similar to touch. And then on the bottom here, very iPhone-like looking, micro USB charge and data, not USB-C, obviously. This is not a flagship device in the OnePlus lineup. They decided to go for the standard USB, micro USB. And then two speaker grills. Really, one is a speaker mono and the other one has the microphones behind it. Now, on the left-hand side here, you have the same slider we saw on the OnePlus 2, which lets you select between all notification, priority notification, and silent. And so this is really great. No interruptions, as you can see here. All notifications, and then the middle is priority only. And this is a great feature that we really loved on the OnePlus 2 that is now back on the OnePlus X. So that's the lay of the land. What's inside? There's a 2,500 milliamp hour battery. Despite the thickness, which is really quite svelte, you have a lot of good battery life on this phone. The other thing is, in terms of spec, it's almost like a OnePlus One. It has a Snapdragon 801, 2 gigs of RAM, 3 gigs of RAM, which is pretty awesome. 16 gigs of built-in storage. But this SIM tray, I was going to tell you I was going to get back to it. This SIM tray is a dual SIM tray, and one of the two SIMs can be replaced with a micro SD card. Yes. So you can either have one SIM in there and micro SD expansion, or two SIMs, which is really cool. Huawei's done this as well. And, it gives you some options and certainly gives you an opportunity to bump the storage up quite significantly. Of course, it's running Oxygen OS, which is right now built on top of Lollipop 5.1.1, Oxygen OS 1.2.1. So this is a slightly skinned but mostly stock Android, you can see here. I've installed, the Google Now launcher, not right now running, but I use it a lot. This is the Oxygen OS launcher. And so this is what it looks like if you're running it with the Google Now launcher, which I like better, gives you more of that Nexus vibe. So, not much of a difference other than you get the new UI here. So, what's it like to use every day? It feels a lot like a small size OnePlus One in terms of performance because it shares the processor, 801, 3 gigs of RAM. Really quite snappy. These 801, 805, these last year's 800 series Snapdragons are really solid processors today still. They don't support 64-bit, so of course, OS-wise, they're a little limited as more and more smartphones are moving to 64-bit OSs. But really, you're going to keep this for a year or two, and it's not going to really matter too much. And again, the price point is exciting. So price, let's talk about that for a second. This is a $250 phone. It's a little more expensive, or almost similar to a Moto G. The Moto G, of course, you can get for less than $200, but then you only get 1 gig of RAM, 16 gigs of built-in storage. You don't want that version. You want the 2 gig, 32 gig version. So this lines up, $30 more or so, or $20 more. Not a bad deal considering it's a much more beautiful, much more high-quality material and fit and finish device than the Moto G. How is it worse than the Moto G? Well, the camera is not that great. Let me show you some samples, but it's not anything to write home about. Here's a photo of Padre, Father Robert, rocking it just before the show today. And as you can see, it's lacks in detail a little bit because it's a low light shot, not that great. This is a better low light shot. You get a little more detail, but as you can see, as I blow it up, it kind of gets a little mushy too. In daylight though, things are pretty good. You can see that there's plenty of detail, but it's a little flat in terms of color rendition. So, I mean, it's a usable and serviceable camera. There's nothing, too bad about. There's an HDR shot here in San Francisco earlier. And as you can see, it's a little flat in terms of color rendition. And that's my only kind of gripe with this camera at this price point. And I think the Moto G kind of really bumped things up a notch quite a bit. That would be a con for me, but everything else about this phone is great. And frankly, for the money, it's hard to fault it. There's no NFC, just like the Moto G, but at this price point, you don't really expect that, so no big deal there. Remember, the OnePlus 2 has no NFC, and that was a big deal because it's billing itself as a flagship. And then sounds great with headphones plugged in. The reception, sound quality is great. There's one drawback that I think is a bit of a problem. As you can see here, it says LTE. I'm on AT&T with an AT&T SIM, but it does not support some of the AT&T and T-Mobile LTE bands in the US. This is a US spec device, but for some reason, it is a little limited in its LTE support. So there are places where if you have this phone and your friends have a standard AT&T or T-Mobile phone like a Galaxy S6 or even a Moto G, where they will get LTE when you are stuck on HSPA+. So just keep that in mind. It seems that they skimped a little bit on the radio support. Also, Wi-Fi does not support AC, only BG and N. So 2.4 gigahertz only, no 5 gigahertz support on the Wi-Fi. So that's it in a nutshell. For $249, this is a great phone. You can buy it from OnePlus directly if you have an invite. Again, they're doing the invite thing. And so, that reduces its appeal a little bit for some people. But if you can score an invite, this might be a really good contender if you want something much more stylish and premium looking and feeling than a Moto G, but with similar specs. Pros and cons. So pros, great device for the money, beautifully made, high quality, great materials and build quality. Really good specs, 3 gigs of RAM. 801 is a bit old, but it's still a solid processor for the money. Remember that the Moto G has a Snapdragon 400 in comparison, so that's quite a bit of a difference in performance. That again, battery is pretty good, so that's another advantage. The drawbacks, it has a camera that could be improved, in my opinion. The camera does the job. It's not terrible, but it's not a camera that I would feel comfortable using, especially in low light. Other drawbacks is no NFC, but you kind of expect that at this price point. And then, I think that the LTE band situation could be improved. Some LTE bands are missing, so if you're on AT&T or T-Mobile in the US, which is, by the way, the only thing that supports in the US, you're going to be in places where you are stuck with HSPA+ instead of LTE. So that's it in a nutshell. This is a really great phone. I'm honestly more excited about this phone than the OnePlus 2 because the OnePlus 2 was so overhyped and underdelivered in some areas like lack of NFC. And also it's not as aesthetically pleasing as this phone. So to me, this is the OnePlus to buy right now. You're getting a lot of the OnePlus 1 essence in an even more stylish and high-end and premium package than the OnePlus 2 at a price that's irresistible 250. One little note I wanted to say that the ceramic version is only available in Europe right now, and it's a lot more money. It's 369 euros, which is about $400 or so. And so you probably don't want to spend that kind of money, even though it does look and feel really great. It's heavier and much even more premium than this. So there you have it, the OnePlus X here on Before You Buy. Stay tuned for more phone reviews. I'm Myriam Joire, right here at the Brick House studio.
The OnePlus X is a buy. The OnePlus 2 was an expensive flagship in a very crowded field of flagships where it did not favor all that well against the competitors, whereas the OnePlus X seems to be a budget phone that works really, really well with its feature-rich lineage and with the fact that, well, it looks like OnePlus actually put some design time into it. It may be the budget phone for you. Brian, you've been looking for an Android phone, right?
I have. I'm actually testing the 6P at the moment.
6P. Oh, well, would you measure that up against the OnePlus X? Because, I mean, I like the idea of a phone somewhere down in the $300 price range. I don't like spending $600, $700, $800 for a flagship.
No, I would say if you're considering any Nexuses, it would be maybe the 5X over the OnePlus. But I'm a Verizon user, so that's why I didn't go OnePlus at all.
Yeah, yeah. And I have to say, above everything, I love the idea of buying a phone, no contract. Not from any of the major telcos, not from any of the ISPs, but buy one and then bring it and get service. And most of the time, that means T-Mobile. T-Mobile is probably the best carrier for bringing a phone with you. But take it from Myriam. Go ahead and find her work at Twitter, Tank Girl. That's TNKGRL. That's Tank Girl. We'll move all the vowels. And you'll find out what she's been working on. Of course, you'll find her here on Before You Buy, often a visitor on All About Android, and an all-around, just really, really nice woman. Folks, when we come back, we're going to take a look at this. Yeah, we got a 3D printer. It's been a while, and Brian's liking this thing. It's been a while since we've had a 3D printer on Before You Buy. The last time we had one was the XYZ DaVinci Jr., which we saw at CES 2015, and we finally brought back to the studio to have a good going through. Now, we liked that printer a lot, especially because of the price. And in fact, right now, that printer has even dropped to $239. So you can get it really affordably. But there were a few things that started to bother us as we used it more and more and more. So the question is, will this, the idea builder, dethrone the DaVinci Jr.? But before we do that, let's go ahead and thank the second sponsor of this episode of Before You Buy. Hey, Brian.
Yeah.
We like cars, right?
We're a bit, we're gearheads here. I think you just binge watched the latest Top Gear.
I did. I shouldn't have done that. I should have been sleeping or working on things. But I will say I'm one of these geeks who I like the electronics. I mean, I like the Prius and I like the Tesla, not necessarily because of all the drive technology, although that's great. I like the ability for the computers to tell me exactly what's going on with the car. I mean, do you like that sort of tech?
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that I geek out on, is the little data points. And I think you mentioned it's like the Prius effect, where you can, once you see how much gas you're wasting, stomping on the pedal and stuff, it kind of affects the way you drive.
It really does. Now, the thing is, unless you buy one of those newer cars, one of the more expensive cars that is wired up, most of the time, the tech in your car is going to lag a little bit behind the times, which is why we've got Automatic as a sponsor of Before You Buy. Now, this right here, this is the Automatic. So inside this little case is a device that will allow you to turn your car into a smart car. This plugs into the onboard data port that's a part of pretty much any car. I mean, any car on the road today is going to have this. And it will read from all the onboard systems on the controller area network inside the car. Now, what this will allow you to do is to see exactly what's going on in your car. Are you concerned about the dash lights that come up? Do you not want to have to go through diagnostic codes or bring it to an expensive servicing in order to find out that the filler cap is unscrewed, or maybe your tire pressure is low? Well, that's what Automatic can give you automatically. It connects wirelessly to your device and gives you all of that information at the touch of a button. But that's not it. It lets you keep track of your fuel mileage and vehicle health. It will let you expense business trips with a tap. In other words, you can say, look, this is a personal trip. This is a business trip. Any miles I log for a business trip automatically gets put into my business log, so either I can get them reimbursed or I can deduct them on my taxes. It will let you link your car to the connected devices that power your life. Now, this also tells you before you go to the shop what you can expect them to tell you. If you're always worried about being taken advantage of by unscrupulous engineers, well, Automatic is a way to give you the upper hand in any one of those negotiations. Now, what else will it do? It'll tell you where you park your car. You can combine it with IFFT. So, for example, every time you pull home, it will tweet out that you're home. Or every time you pull into work, it will punch in for you. It's really up to your imagination how you're going to integrate the Automatic into your life. It's going to work on nearly every car made after 1996. It takes minutes to install. In fact, less than minutes, seconds to install, and connects to your iPhone or your Android device over Bluetooth. It will give you real-time performance data if you are one of those geeks who just wants to know exactly how your engine or your transmission is performing. And it uses intelligent coaching. This is what Brian talked about, the gamification, to tell you when you're driving, well, stupid. That's what Automatic will let you do. It will let you drive smart. I tell you, if you want to see what's under your hood, if you want to see how your car is running, if you want to make your car not just a bunch of technology, but a pile of smart components, you want Automatic. Now, Automatic is normally $99.95, but when you use our special offer code TWIT, you'll save 20%. Go to automatic.com/TWIT. That's automatic.com/TWIT for more information and to purchase. And use the offer code TWIT to save 20% off the regular price. Once again, that's automatic.com/TWIT. And we thank Automatic for their support of Before You Buy. Now, folks, this is the 3D Idea Builder from Dremel. As you can see, it's a 3D printer. It's actually quite well constructed. I like the way that they've done this. It's one of these self-contained printers. Now, you could buy yourself a kit. I love the rep wrap, but it's kind of open to the elements. You can get a lot of temperature differences. When you get a machine that's like this, that's self-contained, it means you're going to have a more controlled environment. And at least in my experience, it means that you're going to get better prints. Now, some of the other things that I really like about this is that they've made it completely accessible, really easily used by the beginner to the more advanced person. And with a larger build space, it means it's going to give something like the DaVinci Junior a run for its money. But you know what? I could sit here and talk all day about the finer points of the 3D Builder, or I could just show you. The 3D Idea Builder is a first-generation single extruder PLA 3D printer from Dremel, the king of DIY and maker tools. Designed for beginning to intermediate builders, the Idea Builder features solid construction, easy access panels, and a 9-inch by 5.9-inch by 5.5-inch maximum build size. In the box is everything you need to start printing: the printer, build tape, a 4 GB SD card, nozzle cleaner, print scraper, USB and power cables, and a spool of filament. Setup takes about 5 minutes thanks to the easy access provided by the removable top and quick release build platform. The filament spool goes into a well in the base of the Idea Builder, and the filament threads through a guide tube into the extruder. Dremel supplies several panels of heavy-duty build tape that is thick enough to be reused several dozen times. And since the build platform has a single hold-down tab, it can be slipped in and out in seconds. After power-up, you can access the Idea Builder's tool screen and initiate the filament auto-load sequence. Every step the printer takes is reported on a color touchscreen that gives you access to all the printer's features, functions, and tools. For proper prints, Dremel has a step-by-step menu-driven procedure for fine-tuning the level of the printing bed. Once the tool has been initiated, the build surface moves up to the extruder, and you tighten or loosen 3 adjustment knobs on the bottom of the build platform until the supplied leveling card just barely meets resistance, slipping between the print surface and the print head. When the hardware is ready, you need to fire up the Dremel slicing software on a Windows OS X or Ubuntu Linux computer. I tested the software with several STL files from Thingiverse and found the software to work very quickly. I would have liked more control over print densities and support settings, but overall the software did a fine job in getting objects ready for printing. Once the object is ready to print, the software can send the print directly to the Idea Maker's internal memory, or you can copy the file to an SD card. The Idea Maker prints layers with 100 micron thickness, and it's designed to work with PLA filament only. There is no DRM on the spool, so you can use your own filaments, though that can void the warranty. But you'll either need to wind your filament on one of the Dremel spools or create an external feed, as most generic spools won't fit properly into the filament well. I made over a dozen prints with the Idea Maker and was impressed both by the quality of the prints and the blazing speed. I printed several of my know-how projects and was pleased to see print times cut in more than half over my current 3D printer. Not only that, but I didn't suffer a single jam or misprint during the run. The Dremel 3D Idea Maker is available now. You can find it online for about $900 with a 1-year warranty. Let's start with the pros. I love the color screen. It doesn't sound like it would be a big thing, but the fact that I can run everything from a touchscreen does make it easier for me to run not just the prints, but to get through all the tools. I also like the fact that it allows me to manually adjust my leveling. I know a lot of printers out there will do auto leveling, but I haven't been completely satisfied with how those work. And this way, it gives me the ability to fine tune in case I have been having issues with some of my prints not looking right. I also like the build tape that they use. I'm not a big fan of build tape. People who have watched know how, or the new screensavers, know that I like putting some sort of slurry, either glue or a sludge, on top of the build plate. And that helps the build to actually stick to the build platform until it's done printing. But this build tape is actually really, really good. It's not just painter's tape or Kapton tape or whatever you're going to see. It's a thicker polymer sheet that they say is good for at least 100 prints. I've done about 24 prints on this so far, and I can't tell. I mean, it still sticks as good as the day that I put it on there. Now, I will say if you do start to run into trouble, what you can do is use isopropyl alcohol and a clean gauze strip to sort of wipe the oils off, because really that's what's affecting your prints. It's the oils on your finger. That's also why you see me loading the filament with gloves, because what will happen is you'll put the oils on your finger on the filament, and as it goes to the hot end, that will stay in there. You give it enough time, and that's going to start to gum it up, and you will have to clean out your hot end. Look at the quality of these prints. I don't know if you can get a shot of this, Brian, maybe on the over. No, it's too far away. But this is by and far the best quality print that we've had come through the no-how, no-hole. The layers are so close together, 0.0004 millimeters, that you don't have to do any post-processing shaving. Not only that, because there's such tight tolerances, it means that it's just gonna look better. When you get the finished job, you're not gonna see all the different layers. I mean, look at that. I probably should have printed it in a different color so that it shows up better. But I mean, even the lettering, normally that would be messed up on the DaVinci Junior, because what will happen is you've got no support for the layers above it and they just kind of collapse. But again, they've done a really good job with their software. They've done a really good job with the way that this thing is put together. And you end up with a print that is good to go out of the printer. I'm just so happy with the quality of the print. So that's another pro. Another pro, and this, Dremel probably doesn't want me to talk about this, but if you look inside the box, you can kind of tell that they designed this for dual filament operation, dual extruder operation. There's enough space here to put another head, and there's actually already space built into the build platform to put another spool. So it's my guess that they designed this for dual extruder operation, and then to cut the price, they made it single operation. This is probably going to be a know-how project where we're going to try to upgrade it. I have no idea if that's possible, but even without that, this is incredibly attractive as a beginner device. Now, on the con side, I will say this. They tell you that you should only use Dremel filament. And they say that using non-Dremel PLA will void the warranty. That sounds a little scare tactic-ish to me, but I understand why they did it. They know that if you put bad filament in this, it's going to mess up the printer. But you are not restricted to Dremel filament. This will work with any PLA filament. You just have to make sure you buy high-quality filament. The one thing is that spool. It's a certain size with a certain through hole, and it's not going to be compatible with most of the generic spools that you buy out there. You either have to rewind onto a Dremel spool, or, as I'm going to do, print out an adapter hub so that it will work even with this locking mechanism, or mount it outside of the printer, which I actually may end up doing because it seems a lot easier. The only other con, and this is kind of shaky because I don't know if I want to make it a con, is the price. It's $900. And $900 does sound like a lot when you look at a printer like the DaVinci Junior, which just dropped to just over $200. You could buy 3 of those for the price of 1 of these. But here's the thing. You will probably need 3 of those because that's about how long they last. Not knocking the DaVinci Junior. I still think it's a phenomenal product for the price, but we have moved on here in the Twit Studios and in the no-hole to needing a device that's going to last us longer than a couple of prints between jams. We need a device that well, is going to make higher quality prints than what we've come to expect from the lower cost printers. And for us, I think that's going to be the Dremel 3D Idea Builder. Try, buy, don't buy. For me, the Dremel 3D Idea Builder is a definite buy. Folks, before we go, I want to throw one more thing your way. Just a quick bit. We've been getting very makery recently, and I know that people are making their holiday gift list. Remember, we want to throw out a couple ideas. And I want to throw this into the mix. For those people, those parents out there who are looking to get something for your children that is more than a video game, that is more than just something that they're going to play with for a while and then throw away, consider this. This is the Makeblock. And there's several different kits that allow you to assemble parts, components into, well, a Lego-ish type assembly. Now, here's how it works. Inside this box, you're going to find a collection of parts that you would need for assembling a robot or a little car, and it looks like this. This is going to come with two high-quality stepper motors. It's going to come with this driver board, which will allow me to get power to all the devices that I need to power. It comes with all the little power adapters I need to make sure that I can power my devices, and then all the support members. Now, these support members look like Lego pieces for big boys. They allow me to bolt together all the different components into at least, as said in the box, 4 different configurations. This particular one is set to make a drawing robot, so I can program what is essentially an Arduino to move the motors in such a way that it will make patterns for me. Now, the cool thing about this is I can repartition it over and over again. With this one kit, I can make the drawing robot. This one I kind of like. I can hang the robot on a wall, and it will move between these two motors. It gets pulled back and forth, and it can actually draw on a wall. It will also make an egg bot, which will hold irregular items like an egg and make fine designs on it. Of course, you could also turn it into a car. I've got 2 stepper motors. Why not turn it into a car? This is a little bit pricey. It's $229, $230. But I mean, when you consider how much Lego kits cost, I would rather get my kid this than the Imperial Star Destroyer, which is about the same price, because this gives them the ability to use their imagination. Because once they're done building the in-box kits, they can start using this to create other things. In fact, add 2 more stepper motors, and they can make themselves a 3D printer. It's basically running off of the same components. Now, over the next couple of weeks, perhaps on the new screensavers, I do want to show how this actually works. I'm going to assemble this, show you what they've given you in the box, and you're going to realize that if you want to give your kid a toy that is more than a toy, maybe you need to check out the Makeblock, the mDrawbot kit. We're going to make sure there are links for this in the show notes, and I'm going to take this away before our producer sees it, because I know he's been wanting to let his kids play with it, and I think Padre needs to play with it this holiday. Well, folks, that's all the time we have for this episode of Before You Buy. Now, I do want to thank my reviewers, especially to Carly Perkins, to Jason Howell, and to Myriam Joire for giving us their reviews. I also want to thank you for tuning in each and every single week, because without you, we wouldn't have the joy of playing with the gadgets that we really, really like. I also want to thank everyone who makes this show possible. Of course, to Lisa and Leo for letting us do the show, to Carson, my super producer, and to my TD, Mr. Brian Cranky Hippo Burnett.
That's
Brian,
me.
that's you. What do you do on the Twit TV network?
Well, I'm a button pusher on All About Android and new screensavers, which is going on tomorrow on Saturday. And I also do Know How with you on Thursdays. And there were a few people in the chat room wondering why I'm in the dark. Our Christmas party was yesterday, and I'm still recovering.
There's a lot of people in the Twit studios who are wrecked right now.
A little wrecked.
A little bit wrecked. Not me, of course, because I'm virtuous.
Exactly.
That's not true. Until next time, I'm Father Robert Ballecer, just reminding you that you gotta watch before you buy.